What's up, guys? Today we're going to be going over the new exotic machine gun in Lightfall, the Deterministic Chaos, which you can start the questline at the end of the campaign. And in this video, we'll be going over exactly what it does, if it's good, and just trying to see if it's worth using or not. And if you need to purchase Lightfall and you play it on Steam, you can do so on my Nexus store link down below. So how do you get this weapon? To start up the questline, once you do the Lightfall campaign, I believe it is from Nimbus. I wasn't recording yesterday. It should be from him, and the reward will clearly be the machine gun. And the questline is pretty straightforward. Just track it like you do most questlines, and it will take you to where you need to be. There's one step that is kind of confusing where you have to get materials from Vex kills. So what we did is go to this lost sector down on the right corner of the map, the arcade one, because it is filled with Vex. And we didn't do the daily version of it, we just did the map version, right? And once you get 8 of the material drop, you have to somehow combine it into like a different material, and it doesn't really tell you how to do that. And what you have to do is simply pick up the planetary material, and it'll exchange 8 of the things that the Vex drop into the other thing. It's pretty confusing, but if you just run through the lost sector, you'll be getting Vex kills, and in every lost sector there's guaranteed to be 2 of the planetary material, so just pick them up as you see them and you should be good to go. So looking at this exotic machine gun, looking at the exotic perk first, heavy metal. While holding down the trigger, every 4th bullet becomes a heavy projectile that weakens targets on impact. Then the secondary perk, Vexadecimal. While holding down the trigger, every 4th heavy metal projectile also makes targets volatile on impact. So jumping into the game and seeing what this all means. So first, every 4th shot will apply the void debuff to a target, which will be a 15% debuff, and it will last for about 5.8 seconds, which means when you're holding down the trigger, obviously that will constantly overlap, and the target will always have that 15% debuff. Then every 16 shot should make them volatile. As you see there was a 10,000 number, which was the volatile explosion. But the thing to note about this is it does not apply the volatile debuff to the target. It's just a one-off volatile explosion wherever you're shooting on the 16th bullet, which is kind of unfortunate compared to things like volatile rounds or void abilities that apply volatile. As you see, that entire system is like a debuff where constantly shooting them over and over again will constantly re-proc the volatile, right? But with the machine gun, it's just a one-time thing and does not apply that debuff. So right off the bat, with the way both these perks work, where you have to hold down the trigger for these 2 effects to happen, it kind of pushes it towards being like a single target weapon, where you're just going to be constantly firing for the entire mag. So if that's the case, let's look at the DPS of the weapon. So looking at the rate of fire, we already have the damage numbers. One thing to note is every 4th and 16th bullet does not do more damage. It just applies the debuff or the volatile. So DPS of 1 mag would be 57.2 thousand. And with this being a new expansion and the numbers are going up because the base game went up, just comparing that to one thing real quick to put it in a ballpark. So the Cataclysmic, which just got nerfed along with all the other linears in the game except for Sleeper and Queenbreaker. Looking at damage of this thing on Carl now, the first shot will hit 63,000, then with bait and switch 85. So just quickly looking at DPS of this with the 1 and 2 mag, it's going to take quite a while. The 1 mag was roughly 6 seconds. Then 2 mag still going is going to be 13 seconds. So DPS of 1 mag is 84.8, then with 2 mag almost 77,000. So quite a bit higher than the machine gun, but to be fair to the Cataclysmic, we can also just have a 15% void debuff through our grenade or teammate, taking it to almost 100k and almost 90k for 1 and 2. So pretty close to almost double that of the machine gun. So this thing might not be the best DPS weapons. I don't think machine guns ever will. So what about for Aclear? Well, with the way these perks work, where you have to hold down the trigger for most things in the game where you're on light or maybe slightly below, if you want to take advantage of both of the perks, you're going to have to be either missing a lot of bullets, changing between targets, or there's just going to have to be a lot of things in a line where you can just hold down and mow them down. Because every single time you tap or release the trigger, it will obviously reset this chain, and just basically at that point just be a regular machine gun, right? So let's try it in a little bit harder content. So the new battleground playlist, where I believe you're 5 below or on light, it definitely feels better, and you can definitely take advantage of the debuff more often. But once again, if you're trying to take advantage of the volatile round every 16th bullet, you're just going to simply be missing a lot. Or, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't really seem worth even going for the every 16th bullet. I think using it just for every 4th for the debuff feels alright and a decent thing to do. But unless you're shooting at like a champion, a boss, mini boss, or something like that, it just seems like you're going to be wasting a lot of ammo trying to use the perks on this weapon. So maybe the only good use of this weapon might be things with champions, so solo legend lost sectors or Nightfalls, things like that. And it would be a good way to apply that 15% void debuff to every single champion. And its DPS isn't that bad, so definitely get the job done. But outside of that, it's really hard to recommend using this thing almost anywhere. I don't think for boss fights, the 15% debuff is worth giving up, you know, your own DPS. I think in most team boss fights and raids and things like that, I think you'd rather have a 30% debuff, so someone using a tether, or if you want a weapon to be the debuff, a tractor cannon, or even the divinity, which will also be a 15% debuff and help your team crit. Another thing definitely not helping this weapon is if every 16 shot was the volatile debuff like Void 3.0, I think it would be a lot more useful because that would actually add a decent amount of damage to the weapon. But with it just being a one-off explosion, it's really hard to recommend even using that, which also means for champions this season with volatile rounds, it can pierce into barrier champions, right? But with it only being once every 16 bullet, that's going to be really hard to time either correctly when the shield goes up, or if you wait for the shield to go up then to shoot, the champion's just going to get its entire health bar back, and it's going to be a pretty clunky experience. So overall, I don't think this machine gun can do anything that you can't do with, you know, Void 3.0 with this fragment right here, along with Void Grenades for the debuff. And this season in the artifact, there's also a Volatile Flow perk where picking up an orb will give you volatile rounds to your void weapons. That's going to be a way better experience for breaking anti-barrier shields because it'll just constantly be there. And if you're looking for exotic to apply the debuff and volatile, the collective obligation will be way better and also suppress them. So overall, I just don't really see where this thing will be used. I think it could be okay for some champion gameplay, but I'm not sure. Anyways, let me know what you think about it down below. That's going to be it for the video. Like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.
Strategies.